Hey, everybody. Welcome to Cincinnati Real Producers Podcast, powered by Next Door Photos. I'm Patrick Braddick, owner and publisher of Cincinnati Real Producers.
And I'm Daniel Ziegler, owner of Next Door Photos. Every week, we're getting to know Cincinnati's top realtors.
Our goal is to elevate and inspire the real estate community throughout greater Cincinnati.
Today, we have Flor de Maria McNally with Keller Williams Advisors. Flor has been selling real estate since 2015. Her career sales volume is an impressive $121 million, and in 2022 alone, her production was $36 million. She has been the recipient of the Circle of Excellence Award every year since 2019, and this year achieved Platinum Level and Pinnacle of Performance for the President's Award. Flor has been featured on HGTV and earned a spot among the best solo Keller Williams realtors in the world, receiving the opportunity to meet with the owner of Keller Williams 4 times a year to mastermind. Welcome to the show, Flor de Maria McNally.
Well, that was a hell of an introduction. So this is actually really interesting, and I want everybody to know right now that Daniel and I are sitting on the hot seat, and we're apologizing to Flor publicly now. So we are so dedicated to our craft and love Flor so much that we've decided to completely screw up the first video and bring her back another week to talk about herself again. So
yeah, for a little encore.
We are so apologetic, and we're so happy that you were able to squeeze us in and come back and help us with our podcast.
No, I appreciate
help you, give you some exposure too. So,
yeah.
So welcome back again.
Thank you.
So, when we talked about everything that's real estate, we always want to reflect back on our families and stuff like that. So, you've always made it pretty clear that your why is your family. And, I know Daniel's big with his family. I love my family. So take us back to the beginning and how family has really created this adventure for you and the freedom. I mean, financial freedom is one thing, but having the ability to spend more time with your family too through real estate is also pretty freeing, because it's a flexible business that you're in at times.
At times. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, people think that freedom in real estate means I get to be off.
Yeah.
But it's not that. It's that you get to do things as you're working.
Sure.
Which
that's a great point.
Sucks a lot of time, but a lot of time it's we take a step back and we're like, we're on the beach negotiating a contract, so it's okay. Would I rather have 2 weeks of completely being off, or would I rather be able to do this and go anywhere I want at any time? I'd rather have that.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I like chaos, so
yeah.
It's all good.
Sure. I'm glad we could add to the chaos.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Absolutely. No, I was just going to say, someone once told me that there's just something that's kind of cool about mixing work and like the relaxed time, and having a little bit of both is just, because you feel fulfilled in your work. And so there's a certain amount of enjoyment that you get from that. And then you mix that in with being able to relax, and it's just kind of a good mix. So having those vacations where you might be doing a little bit of work, but it's kind of a good mix.
It is, yeah. And through this business and through having a coach, I have embraced a lot of like my characteristics personally, like competitiveness. And when I do win at something, it does give me that, little kick of endorphins, and it does, like it's good.
Yeah.
So even though I'm on the beach and I'm, when I win that contract and I'm working, because a lot of people give you a hard time for that, like, you need to find that balance. There is no balance.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you have clarity on what you're working towards, then, everybody's aligned. The whole family's involved.
Right.
And as long as everybody's on the same page and you're not creating rifts within your family, then it's okay.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool too. You can be in celebration mode at the flip of putting your computer down then. It's like, we just closed the deal. We're already on the beach. Let's celebrate. You're already with your family. It's like, you don't have to go home to your family. Your family's right there with you. Let's celebrate. So
that's exactly right.
That's kind of cool.
And they go with me too. Like I was just telling you how I was on stage, and I took my whole family, and they were all sitting there in like the third row. And I just told my husband, I'm like, how cool is that to see your mom on stage? And one of my friends, Jennifer, she's also like a lender that I partner with.
Sure. Jennifer Scheel.
Jennifer Scheel.
She's wonderful.
Give her a little plug.
There it is.
She was there as well. And she's like, Flor, it's not weird because they already see you as a star.
Yeah.
And so it just makes sense that you're up there. And I don't know. It's just like we've been able to share in a lot of really great experiences together as a family.
That's really wonderful.
I love that.
It was a goal of mine, and I set it as a 5-year goal 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And
Ahead of schedule.
Yeah. So getting that call was just like, I was at a final walkthrough, and I was jumping out of my skin. It was.
What kind of conversation did you guys have there?
So Jason Abrams is Gary Keller's right-hand person.
Mm-hmm.
So he called me personally from his personal cell phone and said, hey, I loved what you shared at the Top 100 Mastermind, and I want to have you on stage to share more about it. Essentially, the piece that people really get attracted to because they don't hear of anybody else doing it is my housewarming parties. And I don't do like one-off. Like I do 40 of these parties a year.
That's amazing.
It's highly systematized. Like if you learn something about me, like I'm very much a driver. I'm very much a people person, but I'm also very like spreadsheets and checklists.
Systems oriented,
which is so strange. And so like I developed this party that kind of embraces all those aspects, right? Like I want to be the driver. I want to get it done. I get to hang out with people, and it's a system. And so he heard me talk about those housewarming parties at the Top 100 Mastermind. And so he called me. He's like, I want you to share more about that on stage. Not him, not Gary. Gary Keller, he has 200,000 agents under him, had ever heard of somebody doing housewarming parties at the level that I do them.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So he wanted
Well, and
me
you
to
probably
share.
just elevated and leveled up so many real estate agents across the country too. Just by being able to share that, it's like 200,000 agents. Obviously not everybody probably heard, not everybody can go to these conferences. No matter how hard they try to get people to go to any conference, but if there's 100,000 people that listen to your message, there's probably, let's say even 50% of those people that implement it, you impacted 50,000 people just by having a conversation. Like that's pretty amazing. Like that's unbelievable.
Yeah. And it's just like, I said this on stage. I'm like, we need to get into the space of like being grateful, just like we talked about, like being on the beach and working, right? That we're able to share in these experiences with our clients, and it's work. Like I get to go eat tacos and have margaritas and hang out with 40 new people, and it's part of my job. Yeah. And I get to bring them that happiness through my business, because they have the best time. I mean, we dance, we take pictures, we do a raffle. It is absolutely insane. It's so much fun.
That's awesome.
We drink margaritas with them. So it's
That's
like,
so cool.
yeah.
That is
So just
wonderful.
being able to use our business as a vehicle to bring joy to people is just, I don't think a lot of people think of it that way.
Right. I think I hear so many people looking for the perfect closing gift and, what can I give that's going to be memorable that they'll really like or care about? And there's gift cards and all these things. And I'm like, that is the ultimate closing gift.
Nobody's ever said our agent threw us a party.
Right.
Like they're like, we have a closing rep in Real Producers, and she's amazing. And, but nobody's ever thought to do something like that. Like that's truly a one-off. That's insane. One
of the patterns that I've had in my career, just basically in real estate, is like if I hear of an idea, or maybe it is in life, if I hear of an idea, like my heart is always open, and I take it as grace, right? So I'm faith-based. So if I hear of something, that I'm thinking of it as like, this is God's grace. It's his inspiration. It's his idea. It's not my idea. And I just do it. I just do exactly if it feels right, because that instinct of feeling right, that's also God's grace driving you forward. Yes, that's what you should do.
Yep.
So I went in, I heard about these 15-minute coaching calls, coaching sessions with somebody at our office. She was top tier coach within Keller Williams, and you only had time to ask one question. And so at the time, that was 2018. At the time, my number one struggle was my price point. So I'm always very heavy on my units, but very low on my volume. So what that means for like people that don't understand is like I sell a lot of houses, but the prices of them are very small. So I make less income than a lot of agents that sell
And doing twice the work.
significantly less houses and making triple the income than me. So, but I enjoy it because I get to meet people like my mom when she was first starting out, and her dream is coming true that she's buying a house. And I see these people level up over the years. So over the years, just naturally my price point has come up. But anyway, I have this session with this coach and I'm like, look, I'm at 100,000. That's my average price point.
Wow.
Half my transactions are more than 100.
Wow.
Half of them are less.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, I want to get up to 200,000. And she's like, throw a housewarming party for one of the clients because you have above 100. Throw them a housewarming party. I'm like, okay. And I did it. A lot of people that reach out to me when they hear about the housewarming parties, well, what do I do? What do I buy? Right? I'm like, don't think about it. What jives with you? For me, it's margaritas. I love margaritas. I love tacos. And also the efficiency, right? I know I can make a big vat of ground beef. I can make rice. I can make beans. So it can be vegetarian. It could be for people that eat meat.
Sure.
You can go buy most of the ingredients at the store pre-made: sour cream, cheese, tortillas. So it's cheap, it's fast, and people love it.
Yep.
So just pick something and just do it.
Right.
But implement it. My first housewarming party was a mess, but they loved it.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
And I'd go back to the office and I'm like, what went well? What went wrong? And I tweak and I tweak and I tweak, and I'm still tweaking the party.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think it's cool because none of them are ever going to be the same. You know, like they're all going to be unique to that specific house and that family's character and everything like that. So like, I think like it sounds to me like you're always going to be tweaking, but like from an organizational standpoint, I feel like you have it pretty well organized, right? Like you're pretty well set on how these typically go then.
Yeah, and not just the housewarming parties, but events and the VIP program that I do and my transaction, like the closing process. Like it's all just a skeleton and it's always going to vary, right?
Yeah.
So you just build around that framework and you set standards. So just like every birthday party you've ever been through is probably different. It's a different experience because it's different people, but it all has the same template.
Right.
You get there, you mingle.
You eat, you cut the cake, you
cut the
play.
cake, and then you play. Like,
You drink the margarita, you eat the taco, and you play.
that's
There it
it.
is.
Then you do the raffle, and
That's
then that's
awesome.
time to pack up. So it's like everything in life has a template. You just have to figure out what it is for you. And those are like I call it a template, but it's really your standard. So what is your standard?
Right.
And then you just build checklists around it so that it's replicatable, duplicatable, and scalable.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things about that, and in terms of thinking as a closing gift, whether you look at it that way or not, I kind of see it that way. But I think what's really cool about it is, yes, there's monetary investment there, but there's a lot of time invested. But that time is what's making the difference. Like the time you being there, your team being there, whoever's showing up to these housewarming parties, that's making the difference as far as being memorable to your clients. And I'm sure driving an insane number of referrals. I mean, it's just I love creative ideas like this.
Thank you.
And I think I can see why you were brought up on a stage to talk about it, because here we are and we can't stop talking about it.
It's all about focusing on relationships first.
Right.
So a lot of new agents will come to me for advice. I'm like, how did you get to this level? I'm like, I'm hosting this buyer seminar. And how do I get referrals out of it? I'm like, oh, I hate that word. I hate referrals. Not I hate referrals. I love referrals.
Right.
But I hate asking for referrals. I love offering value and for them to organically think, well, what better way to repay?
Sure.
Yeah.
I find that like it just struck me that it's like, you know, how do I get referrals out of that? And my immediate response and my thought process was, how do I get relationships out of that?
Yes.
What can we do to get relationships out of that? Like, what system can we put in place to get more relationships? We're not necessarily worried about referrals because the relationships are what really matters.
Right.
So like thinking about that, like that's almost what you want to tell a new person. Like, don't worry about a referral, worry about the relationship, you know, like
Absolutely.
that's, that just totally just blew my mind, but
just invest in that. Just invest in that. I love meeting people, and you do get burned out after a while. So that's where that counterbalance comes in, right? So like sometimes I need my bucket filled with relationships with my clients and with my sphere and with my network. And other times I need my bucket filled with my family.
Sure.
And so it's like understanding like where are you and being hyper aware of where you are. And like, for example, like this week, I'm very much in need of filling my bucket with conversations.
Yeah.
So 30 minutes every morning, I'm talking with my favorite people in my sphere, in my database. One of my clients, she started a food truck, and she was and I'm like, tell me more. Like, how was the permitting process? And she's like, it was amazing. And I get to do it with my family. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool.
You should come to a housewarming party with your
say,
food truck.
She was my first Latino housewarming party.
Oh, heck yeah.
Such a good party.
That's awesome.
Everybody came in at the end, and we were just like partying it up. It was awesome.
That's awesome. Well, talking about both buckets, like let's kind of shift the gears a little bit to the family bucket and talk about that, because I know we've talked about how being not just a woman but a mother in real estate can have so much effect on yourself personally, your business. And we talked about like, you know, kind of touch base on that balance between, you know, we know your why is your family, but how are you intentional with your family, and how are you how are you able to establish that common ground and that balance with your family and your business?
Yeah, so I think it really starts with great communication with your spouse if you're married. I remember so Jimmy gave me the idea to get into real estate.
Right.
Number one. So I was writing my first contract. I got licensed on tax day, and 3 days later I was writing a contract. One of the backup offers that I had put in went active. I mean, literally I was producing 3 days into having my license.
That's crazy.
I know. And so I had my computer with me just in case that happened. And then it did happen, and we had planned this trivia night with our friends. And Jimmy turns around, he looks at me, and he's like, are you serious right now? And I'm like, look here, you told me to do this. And if you want me to do it, you know that I'm going to do it at 100. So it's all or nothing. He's like, you're right. And he stepped off. I wrote the contract. I went back in, and we had a great time. Never once after that one incident has he ever said something about me working.
Just
ever.
Full support.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's 100% support. But I took that in mind too. I'm like, okay, it can't just be me just blazing through and taking everything. Mm-hmm. So for example, like when we would go out to dinner, I would frequently answer calls while we were at dinner, and I would, wrap up the call really quickly. But now I don't. I just ignore it. And it's sharing that gratitude with each other,
Sure.
Thank you for being supportive of me. And he's like, thank you for making time for me, because quality time is really important. So it's that constant communication, not just with your spouse, but then once you start having kids, it's
Right.
like it's almost like, this is going to sound crazy. It's almost like business planning every year, right? So what's our goal? Like, okay, so you're pregnant, we're about to go from 1 to 2, or we're about to go from 3 to 4. Like what needs to be in place for us to continue going on dates, continue going on vacation, and for our business to continue growing. And we have that meeting every single year. And we write our someday goals. We write all the way down, trickle to what are we doing next week to make all of this happen.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, just having family goals.
Sure.
That's awesome. I think that reminds me of, and maybe this is kind of where you pull that from, but doesn't Gary Keller say something about living intentionally, or maybe you remember the quote, but
Goal setting to the now.
yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what it is.
Yep. I
From
love
the
that.
one thing.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's so
I'm
cool.
I'm a business book and personal development book junkie.
Yeah.
Well, and Gary Keller's worth listening or reading about. So he's a genius.
He is.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, you should see us at these masterminds. I'm like 2 feet away from him and he's just talking. I'm just,
yeah,
everything that comes out of his mouth is gold.
that's fantastic.
It's incredible.
Brilliant guy for sure.
And he's constantly pushing that you really never arrive at mastery.
Mm-hmm.
So it's constant growth, constant learning. I mean, about myself, like I know my personality is very strong. And so like 2023 me is highly different than 2015 me. 2015 me was less in control of her emotions. And it's like just learning about myself, embracing myself, and knowing like techniques on how to like, like when you guys called me and told me that I had to redo the podcast, it's like,
It was so hard.
Tell me about it.
oh my gosh. It's just like, I'm just like so passionate about what we talked about. And
I
I
know.
left feeling so good. And it's like, how do like I bring it down a notch and get back into like a good
Sure.
headspace?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and real estate is always evolving. So when you can work on your mental aspect of your business and be mentally tough, and mental health is obviously of the utmost importance these days with a lot of people, when you can balance that, you can evolve with real estate. Like you can understand that every day is different and every year is different, as we've noticed.
Yes.
You've gone from 2018 to growing to probably skyrocketing in 2020, like everybody did, and then having the issues with multiple offers to now you're here. And it's like, all right, we're starting to calm back down a little bit with interest rates and everything like that. So how has that helped you in your business as far as that mental stability, like being able to adapt to the ever-changing real estate world?
Yeah, I think that's one aspect of my personality that fits really well with real estate is I love change. I'm not afraid of change.
That's fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Don't ask my team though. They flip out every time I
We're
come
good.
in. I'm like,
We've had
"We're
5
doing
days.
something different." I'm like, oh gosh, like everybody just braces themselves. They're like, here she goes.
But we had a template for the housewarming party,
What do you
and
mean?
you've changed the template. What are we doing here?
Exactly
That's
right.
awesome, though.
Yeah, like we just
Keeps it fresh.
like a new thing that we added is like the raffle tickets. We used to put them in this bowl. Well, one day somebody forgot to add the tickets to the tote, so I showed up and we didn't have the tickets. And I'm like, okay, let's pivot. I'm like, we'll do the wheel of names, and we'll just do that one time, and then I'll order some tickets when I get back to the office. Oh my gosh, the wheel of names was like, that was the it thing.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody like crowded around the screen, was screaming, just watching the thing just go slowly, and then boom, like it hits the person and the name comes up in big and bold.
Yep.
And like, I mean, literally everybody's screaming at the top of their lungs. And I'm like, okay, we're doing this now.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, scratch that other, raffle tickets. I'm always very open-minded. I'm always observing like what works best to bring the most joy, the most energy. I'm like, this is it.
Great.
We got to update the checklist.
That's fun.
fantastic.
Yeah. Happy accident.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
It's
Happy
great.
or happy mistake.
Right.
Yeah.
Mistake, whatever. But I love that. And I think it takes, some humility maybe that, just to be able to just pivot and say, well, actually, that is a better idea. Let's roll with that, It's like we had this plan, but this is better.
Yeah. Well, I made a huge change at the beginning of 2022. Was it this year? No, it was last year. Yeah, it was last year. Oh, so I was noticing like one aspect of our systems of communications. So I have 7 employees. I have somebody that handles all the initial consults with our buyers. She has an assistant. I have a transaction manager. I have a marketing manager. I have 2 VAs, and I have a showing partner. And so on the side of like the initial consults, I noticed that like some people were falling through the cracks because we didn't have due dates on the checklists. And so I started researching, and I mean, the platform that we use, ClickUp, is something that I personally designed. So I'm very techie. So I designed the entire, like it just gives you nothing. Like it's just the application, and then you have to build it out according to what your needs are. So, I mean, I have 87 automations, all designed by me.
Wow.
And so the system was working great, but it didn't have that detail. And so I told my team, I'm like, look, we're going to try something different. And they're like, we're leaving ClickUp? I'm like, yep, we're leaving ClickUp. We're going to Monday.com. So we moved to Monday.com. It was an absolute disaster. So we left that. I'm like, we're doing Follow Up Boss. Absolute disaster. Dumpster fire. We're going to Brevity. Absolute disaster. Dumpster fire. I mean, they were so, I mean, I almost lost one of my people because she was that frustrated. And I was laying one night and I'm like, I don't have to be right. Like, maybe I was wrong about like the due dates. Everything else was working great.
Right.
And so I texted my team and I'm like, how would you guys feel if I said they were changing back to ClickUp? And they're like, I never thought you'd say that. But they never questioned me. You know, they're like, she knows what she's doing. Things always tend to work out. And so that was a huge error. And it was 6 months worth of time going back and forth and moving 5,000 people. From
I was going to say, that had to have been a pretty difficult transition to make each time too.
So it's like, yeah, like sometimes like we notice things that are going wrong, and like I'm very impulsive and I will just change it right away. The next day it's a change. And a lot of times that's worked out, but sometimes it doesn't, and you have to give yourself grace.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and you're so humble about it. Like you're humble, and that's how you discover that, right? Like you accept the fact that this is our best process, and I'm willing to go back to that and not say, no, this is it. I'm right. We're going to keep charging forward to this or this or this. It's like, all right, let's go. Well, we're good.
Yeah.
We'll go back. And we've been so happy.
It's
and
fantastic.
Right. I think a lot of people would just, like you said, just double down and be like, nope, this is the direction I set out
Especially in
on,
real
and we're going to
estate.
keep going.
Like there's some strong personalities in real estate, right? So it's like,
yeah.
I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
No, we're never going back to that. That's not good enough, you know? And
Or like what I've seen a lot is complacency.
sure.
So it's like, this is working really well. I'm not going to do anything about it. And it's like, then your system is antiquated 2 years later. So it's like you constantly have to be taking a deep dive into your systems, into your checklists, document everything, and make sure that it is the best possible solution for the market that you're in and for the people that you have. Yeah.
Great.
And if you don't have that kind of brain, hire somebody that does.
Right.
Because a lot of agents, like I said, I'm very weird. Like I'm spreadsheets, but I'm also conversations.
Yeah,
So it's
that's a unique mix of personality, I think, to be able to do both and to love both.
Yeah, I love spreadsheets.
Yeah.
And I love people.
That's great.
It's an uncommon mix for sure. I think it probably is a strength for you,
It's
and
worked out.
yeah, to be able to have both of those. But like you said, to be able to also recognize where you need to hire people. And I think it sounds like you're building an amazing team. And just from our first conversation, I know that is very intentional too, and has an end goal in mind. Would you like to share kind of what that vision is that you and your family hold dear, that you're working towards actively right now?
So currently I'm 34 years old, and my goal when I met my husband and we got married in 2016 was that I would retire by 42. And a book that I read last year, Die with Zero, if you have an opportunity to read it, it's one of the best books I've ever read. It confirmed that for me in the sense that there's a balance between wealth and health. And there's a certain peak health that you can reach, and there's a peak wealth that you can reach. And you shouldn't strive to have billions of dollars in your bank account if you're not ever going to use it. And so the idea is that you use your money in the perfect balance so that when you pass away, you have nothing. Right? So giving while you're living, experiencing while you're living, and earning just up to the point where that number is reached, where you can do that smoothly.
Right.
And so we set it at 42. And so I'm currently 8 years away from that goal. And so it's this push forward. Like, we all know that it's finite. So I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life. It's just 8 more years. And every single person in my family knows that. And so when I'm charging forward and I'm doing 10-hour days or 16-hour days or whatever it is, they're like, it's okay. It's just for now. So that's our main vision. And the reason why, aside from obviously experiencing things with my kids, my dream is to be a stay-at-home mom. And it sounds so plain and basic, but for me, it's a high dignity position.
It's the hardest job in the world.
Yep.
Like, it's a hard job. So you're going to go from having a hard job to having a harder job. So that's good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm just kidding. No, but that's a really cool dream. I love that.
Yeah.
Go on. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I mean, really basic things like bathing them and brushing their teeth. And Cecilia and I started gratitude journaling at night. She can read and write now. She's 6. And I was like, wait a second, you can write. Would you want to journal with me at night? And she's like, over the moon. And she's like, yes. So every night she brings her journal, I bring mine, and we just sit and we write about our day. And so it's like sharing in those really small moments, because in reality, they're the big moments.
They are.
When we're old and gray and we can hardly move, the only thing that we'll have is pictures and memories. And that's really what you retire on. It's not a bank account. It's your memories. So each and every day you want to make the most of what are those memories, what are those experiences, and am I making the most out of each and every day, each and every hour, each and every minute.
Right. That's it. I mean, living intentionally like that it can be really hard when there's so much on your plate. Like, I've experienced this personally. There's just so much going on. I mean, real estate is so 24/7 that, there are times when I am at home off work, quote unquote, where I'm with my family, but I'm not mentally because I'm worrying or thinking about something else, at work.
Oh, don't think that I don't do that. I definitely do. And it just comes back once again to that communication piece. And I'll find myself snapping at my children because of something that's stressing me out, some inspection, some appraisal, some financing issue. And it's about having the courage to come back and say that was wrong of me.
Right.
And our parents never did that when we were growing up.
No.
Like, when did we ever get an apology about something that they did to us that affected us? And I feel like as a generation, like I feel like we're all part of the same generation.
Sure.
We're changing the script. And it's like, no, I messed up.
Yeah.
And my kids value that on a very deep level.
Sure. I mean, if the average entrepreneur works 40 hours a week, let's just say that's the average. That people work more and some people work less if their systems are in place the right way, So, like, let's say the average entrepreneur works 40 hours a week. Every single person's thinking about their business over 90 hours a week. So it doesn't matter if you're at the office. It doesn't matter if you're at home with your kids. You can't tell me you're not thinking about your business.
You can't.
Because everybody does,
Exactly.
right? And I'm guilty of it too. I just bought a lockbox for my phone. It's a timer. You could set it to however long you want. I do it for an hour every night, so I'm intentional with my family.
Well, that's cool.
So it's like, you can't get your phone for an hour. It won't open. So like,
I am implementing that.
I'll send you the link. It was like, my wife's like, you're always on your phone. And I'm like, well, I'm always working, and I'm like,
Right.
crap, you're right. I am always on my phone. So, it's stupidity on my part for thinking something's going to change if I keep doing the same thing over and over. So I bought a lockbox.
That's
Now
amazing.
there's nothing I can do but be intentional, right? So, it forces you to think outside the box and maybe pause your brain a little bit and be with your family. So
There's only been once or twice that I've accidentally left my phone at home, and it is the most freeing experience. Like,
after the initial freak out, right?
oh yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh, the panic.
Actually, this could be good.
Right.
There's nothing I can do, so I'm just gonna enjoy this. I'm going to Walmart without my phone.
That's fantastic.
And it's
Yeah,
like,
what if somebody has to get a hold of me? It's like, what happened when we were kids?
Right.
We'll be fine.
I know,
So, like,
and it's teaching people how to treat you,
yeah.
right? Like, if you're at home and you're enjoying family time, and your boss calls you, like, how does that make you feel? So it's like, teaching people that you have to train them to understand that.
Yeah.
I had somebody call me last night at 10 o'clock and kids were already in bed, and I always answer. And I'm like, hey, I'm actually about to go to bed. She's like, I am so sorry. I accidentally called you. I totally did not expect you to answer. And yes, you should go to bed. I'm like, okay, thank you so much.
Talk to you later.
Yep.
But it's having the grace to like a lot of moms, like when they see me online, I always try to share vulnerable and also highlights, right? Because I don't want to ever seem like I've got it all together, because I don't. And I have a breakdown every quarter. I allow myself that. I'm like, I'm going to just break down, cry it out. Everything sucks. Feel sorry for myself. And then just get it out of my system and move on to the next day. If you need that.
Right.
And you're absorbing so much stress and anxiety over 90 hours a week.
Exactly. Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah.
So-
Gotta just let it out. A little release.
And it's hard for people to understand that they're not on an island on their own, that everybody's going through this too. It's just it's just, can you reach out to somebody? You're like, hey, Flor, do you ever have this happen to you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought I was the only one. Have you ever heard somebody say, I thought I was the only one? So it's like,
All the time. Yeah.
So, when you feel like you're on that island, yeah, accept the breakdown and then replenish yourself, right? So,
And knowing how to replenish yourself.
exactly. With your buckets, right? There you go.
With the buckets. Yeah.
Dive into the family bucket and boom,
Yeah.
good things will happen. So, I
Exactly
don't know.
right.
That's really cool. It's all full circle. This didn't happen last week. We didn't have
It
a full
didn't.
circle.
No, we didn't.
conversation.
We had linear.
We are totally breaking ground here. I love it.
We'll just have to do it every week. Who knows what
I
we'll
know.
come up
Oh
with next
my
week.
God.
Yeah. See you next week.
Flora didn't record. Or my videographer told me it was yesterday. We were like, when will the Christmas photos be ready? And he's like, Christmas. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, I guess I'll let everybody know. And he reacted with a laugh out loud. And he's like, I'm just kidding. They'll be ready this week. I'm like, you? He's like, you should do that to me with the
Right.
podcast. It didn't
We
work
will never
again.
do that
Sorry.
again. I promise you that. That will never happen again. So
Too funny.
It's on the checklist now.
there you go.
Right. Yeah, can you
We're
build a
still
checklist
working on
for
our.
us?
We're still
Yeah,
working
right,
on our. We're still working on our template.
We need somebody like you on our team.
I'll add you to ClickUp.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, we want to move on and ask you some advice that you might want to offer to buyers and sellers in the market or other agents. But real quickly before we do, we always like to thank Back to Back Ministries, who awesome podcast studio we are in here. They let us use this space for free, which is great. So just want to give them a shout out. Back to Back Ministries is a global nonprofit orphan care organization with their sights set on providing care for today and hope for every tomorrow. From Cincinnati, Ohio to Hyderabad, India, staff teams around the world are stepping into hard stories and choosing to stay. To learn more about the work Back to Back does, how you can get involved, and why a global team won't stop until every child is known and loved, visit backtoback.org today.
That's also new.
Yeah, absolutely. Always grateful to Back for letting us use this space.
Appreciate their ministries for sure.
Just like last time we talked about like taking a mission trip
Uh-huh.
or like an exploratory.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize they also helped orphan children. That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's an international orphan care ministry, and so you can take mission trips and go and serve internationally, or you can support the work from afar, just financially. So
That's amazing.
mission near and dear to my heart. So.
Yeah.
But we're grateful just for the space and getting to use their awesome microphones and everything here in the studio.
These
Yeah,
are
I don't think they
expensive.
expected us to be here this much. But
Right. More than they bargained for, but
it's not your fault, it's ours.
right.
So,
Yep.
It's not you, it's me.
yeah.
So yeah, but with that, we'd love to offer you the opportunity to offer some advice to buyers and sellers in today's market, and then other agents, maybe new agents to the business if you'd like.
Yeah. So buyers, number one thing, it's always a good time to buy. No matter what, you buy real estate and wait. You don't wait to buy real estate. There's absolutely no way to time the market. You just have to get in and then ride the coaster up because it's always going up. The real estate crash happened due to, fraudulent lending, and it's something that was totally, unique and is not really going to happen again. I mean, if you look historically at home values, it's only happened that one time. So I know everybody's been waiting for a housing crash, but it's not happening.
Nope.
Yeah.
It ain't coming.
So just jump in and start building equity and a future for your family. Sellers, on the other hand, you do have to find the right time to sell. Obviously, if you're in a tough situation and you have to sell, then that's different. But if you're looking to cash out and pay off debts or buy your next property using the equity from your last house, there is a good and bad time to sell. And so just making sure that you're aligned with a high integrity realtor that's going to be honest with you and tell you, you shouldn't sell right now. It's not in your best interest. And then for new agents, just remembering to put those relationships first, staying organized, keeping your database clean, tagged, and updating it and feeding it constantly, that database. It's your gold. And those past clients, that sphere, those are the people that you need to be communicating with every 3 months. Don't think that, yes, my business has been built over the last 10 years. It has a lot of layers, but it was one thing added every single year. So just start now, and then next year add another thing. The following year add another thing. And then next thing you know, you'll have a big, thriving business.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. Great advice.
Quote that's always going to stick with me from Flor now is, don't chase the referral, chase the relationship. There it is.
Yes, that's exactly right.
There it is. Flor, thanks for being on here with us again. Really do appreciate you and your grace. I know that it very well could have turned out to be a big hindrance to you, but you've shown us nothing but love, and we thoroughly appreciate that. So thank you so much for you being you, and we're excited to continue to follow your story and your business.
Thank you. Sorry for getting frustrated.
No, you weren't frustrated.
Every right to.
And if you were, it was warranted, and I couldn't tell. So, but
Seriously. No, it's been a real pleasure, Flora, and talking to you not just once, but twice.
I know.
Really getting to know you. So, no, but it has been a pleasure. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Thanks, Flor.